Sam Heifel from Entertainment Weekly. I am here at Comic-Con with the cast and creator of Tell Me a Story. We are live on Facebook, so send us your questions. We'll get to a few of those. I'll start with my questions. Kevin, where did this idea come from?
Well, actually, it came from a show in Argentina.
Okay.
And so we're adapting a format that was brought to me, and it was all about sort of these dark, twisted fairy tales, the original sort of Grimm brother fairy tales, and we're modernizing them. It's sort of a modern take on it. And just imagine if you took those fairy tales and wrote them today. What themes, what morals, what subversion would you do to them? And it sort of spawned to be, it was sort of like, it's not unlike Scream in the set that we're deconstructing the fairy tales, and it's just been a lot of fun. So it's been nice to sort of work in a cable space and streaming and sort of take the gloves off and do something new.
Yeah, how dark do you get to go?
We get pretty dark. These guys go pretty dark, so it's nice.
Yeah. I have nothing to add to that.
Great.
I second that notion. Couldn't have described it better.
This is going perfectly.
Yeah.
No, but I am curious just because, you know, the whole premise, I'm like, how do all of these fairy tales intertwine? Are there like three separate storylines?
Well, it's a serialized drama. And what we've done is we've taken the Three Little Pigs, Little Red Riding Hood, and Hansel and Gretel for our first season. Okay. And they're sort of intertwined in the fact that they sort of bump up against each other. And as the series progresses, they get more and more entwined. And they sort of begin to sort of intersect in each other's fairy tale.
Okay. So are you guys each like part of like one fairy tale story?
The Three Little Pigs. There you go.
Yeah, we're in the same storyline.
Okay.
He's the good guy, and I'm one of the bad guys. You know, for lack of a better, sort of more cohesive answer. But
You're a good guy. You're just a good
I'm
guy.
a good guy. I'm
misguided.
You're
Misguided, made some wrong decisions in life.
Dealt a bad.
I think that's what's so interesting to me as an actor when reading these scripts, and you know, I think when people watch the show, what is so fascinating is that all of these characters are so human and so developed that you don't just have archetypal bad guy or archetypal good guy. It's all very layered, and everyone kind of actually goes on these journeys that take them to like the full spectrum of human emotions. So people will be rooting for the bad guys at some point. They'll be probably rooting against the good guy at some point. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And you don't really like the characters themselves they're not cognizant that they're in the fairy tale.
Sure.
The fairy tale is sort of just this naturalistically entwined in a modern day setting, which is so what makes it so special and so brilliant. So you see like little hints of, oh, okay, Three Little Pigs. Oh, interesting. Little Red Riding Hood. And you start to like connect these pieces together. They're almost like walking into their own sort of doom in a sense, because we all know how the stories end. You know what I mean? Which is kind of interesting.
Or do we change them?
Or right, yeah.
That was going to be my question. How closely are we sticking to?
Well, if you look at the Three Little Pigs, you know, the theme and moral of that has always been hard work pays off. You know, the pig who built his house of brick was the one who's, you know, was able to sort of keep the wolf at bay. Yeah. And when the wolf finally did climb down the chimney, he wound up in a pot and they ate him. And so, what's our subversion? How are we going to tell that story? You know, does hard work really pay off in this world today? Sure. Maybe not always.
And you guys are shooting in New York, right?
Yes. That is the woods.
So oh,
the
I
woods.
love that.
So New York City sort of
jungle.
Yes, it's sort of our woods. It's sort of how so when our characters stray from the path, it's, you know, it happens in New York City.
That's amazing. Well, so was this something, Paul, like, did you know about this, like, during Vampire Diaries days? Had you guys talked about this?
No, I had heard that I think, Kevin, you had told me about it at one point, just super casually, and I was excited by the idea, and then, actually, my agent sent me the script, and I think I texted you saying, "Hey, I love this script. It's so good. I'm so excited for you." And then I didn't hear from Kevin for a while.
Well, he read it for fun, actually. Like we sent him the script, and
I
said, "Please read this." And I actually sent it to you, didn't I?
You did. You're right. You sent it to me.
And I sent it to you, and I was like, "Please read this just for fun." And you sent me a project that you're producing, and we were just trading back, we were being producers back and forth. We were just, and we've always been since the Vampire Diaries. We haven't really going too far away from each other. So and so we just kept talking about it, and then I was like, well, would you like to, and I thought about it, and I thought, what do I want to see Paul Williams do? You know, I look at Paul Williams and I sort of see, he reminds me, I'm sorry, Paul Wesley.
How's Paul Williams?
A singer, a songwriter from the 70s.
And a hybrid of the two.
He's a little blonde-haired
Paul Williams.
No, Paul
Williams.
Williams. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain aneurysm. But what we're doing is I said, what do I want to see him do? Here's where I mixed it up.
Okay.
Here was my answer. I see Paul as sort of the Michelle Williams of Dawson's Creek.
Okay.
And that's where so
wow.
I mushed it in my head,
by the
and
way,
that's
that's
what
a
I was about to
great
say. And I actually
reference.
I've always looked at Paul and said, he's so talented. He's a character actor trapped in this thing, and
very nice.
And so I just think he's just capable of so much, and I don't think we've really seen all that he can do as Stefan.
Sure.
And so this has been, and I said, will you play this part? It's this really crazy, insane role that takes a really incredible journey, and I think it's really kind of mad.
Yeah.
And I think I'd like to see you play this part. And he read it and went, I'm in.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. All right, we have a Facebook question. Emily Meyer would like to know, what was your favorite fairy tale growing up, and has the show ruined it for you?
Wow. My favorite fairy tale growing up was probably something about Little Red Riding Hood was very interesting to me. Which, by the way, our show, one of the storylines is Little Red Riding Hood. And the show has done far from ruin it for me. It's made it more interesting and exciting, and I can't wait to see that storyline come alive.
What qualifies as a fairy tale? Like, is it something that's been existed for years and years and it's folklore kind of, or like, what exactly qualifies a fairy tale?
Well, I think sometimes we're lost in sort of the Disney fairy tale because they've taken these fairy tales and turned them into these beautiful, sort of lovely stories. But the original fairy tales were really cautionary tales. They were very dark, and they were sort of to warn children of the dangers of the woods. If you stray from the path, there's a wolf lurking.
Right.
There's wolves out there. If you look at Hansel and Gretel, I mean, it was written in the Middle Ages when it was about famine and starvation and hunger, and the parents abandoned the kids out in the woods because they couldn't afford to feed them. And then they come along to this candy house where this witch lures them in and then fattens them up to cook them and eat them. Mm-hmm. And so
they're so creepy.
So in our story, what does that abandonment look like today? So we have a brother and sister who are just thrown away by their parents, who have been abandoned. One is a vet who's been thrown away by her country, and there she is struggling. They're just struggling to find their way, and they are handed some candy, and then an evil witch comes with it.
But to answer your question, like I was thinking of like
the drama.
I thought of like the when you said Little Red Riding Hood, I thought of like, this is obviously not a fairy tale, but like the Wizard of Oz. It's like I like anything that takes any type of innocence and puts it in a sort of complex world. And all these characters are seemingly begin innocent, and then they sort of become thrust in this sort of world that sort of changes their entire viewpoint on life.
So true.
Well, Little Red Riding Hood, and what's so great about this is we have Kim Cattrall playing the grandmother. And it's so much fun. We have Danielle Campbell, who is playing our Little Red Riding Hood, and she's a young girl who's beset with tragedy and grief and sorrow after the loss of her mom. And she's already strayed from the path when we meet her. And she's already, going, her first night in New York, she comes to live with her grandmother, and first night in New York, she's out partying. And lo and behold, who does she meet?
Right. All right. Well, I can't wait to watch it. Thank you guys for stopping by.
Thank you very much.
Great. I'm excited. We have a great cast. Billy Magnuson, who's not here. We have Dania Ramirez.
Yep.
And we just have Dorian Missick, and we just have a great cast.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I hope you guys watch it.
Absolutely.
Check it out.